Have gown. Will wed. A workplace-ish romance. Written by Killian McRae. Episode 7.
Chapter 28, Xavier. My hand hesitated on the car handle door, my shoulders tight, my teeth gritting. Through the back glass of the departing town car, I became a bystander to Kane and Rosalind's groping. Fine, groping might have been an exaggeration, but he was touching her and she was clearly allowing it to happen. At this point, the fact that it was consensual was enough to send me reeling. Had I been wrong to back down? There she'd been last night, within arm's length, my lips right against hers, and somehow I had blown it. Sharing my theory on her history of gone-wrong relationships didn't help bring us together either. At the very least, in the elevator, couldn't I have told her the truth? Yes, I could have, and it would have cost my firm. What would she think when she found out I was here to sabotage her proposal? If she reacted poorly and withdrew Beta House's contract, the rumor mill would grind. Having my reputation tarnished could bring down not only my career, but my whole company. All true and undeniable facts that refused to bow down to one unrelenting truth. I was in love. Oh well. What of my reputation if I let her end up with Kane? I was a man whose talent was matching up a client with the best available candidate for the position. If I failed to do just that, I'd never be able to have confidence in anything I ever did again. The best candidate was me.
Sir?
The cab driver looked back, his right arm stretched over the top of the seat, his fingers cycling through successive taps. I think I forgot something in my room. Would you be willing to wait here for about 10 minutes while I run up? The cabbie huffed.
You're at the Crown, Mumbai. I know all about that elevator. Unless you're on the bottom floor, I better be willing to wait for 15.
But will you? He pushed the red button on the dash. Immediately a blinking light flashed and a slow climb of numbers ensued. Thank you. I'll be right back. I peeled through the lobby of the hotel as though dogs were nipping my heels. Yes, I was going to give Rosalind a demonstration of how seriously I took both my job and her future.
Chapter 29, Rosalind. Kane wore confusion on his face like a 5 o'clock shadow. He'd gone wide-eyed as soon as we'd entered the temple, and had barely caught his breath since he noticed the symbolic fire pit the bride and groom were to sit before. I knew that a man of his occupation didn't easily let it be known he was outside of his element, and I loved seeing a more vulnerable side of him. Your first Indian wedding, I take it. I hooked my arm with his and led through the huddle and into the reception hall.
Is it so obvious?
Only if someone looks at you. A smile danced between us. I get it. This is my third. But still, it's overwhelming. I had no idea Kamakshi's would be so extravagant. This must have cost a fortune.
Well, when you get married, you should do it right?
There was something peculiar in his tone. Kane spoke with a tinge of nerves. I hoped he wasn't upset by the tight confines needed to pass through the doors to the inside. Or worse, that he had caught on to my plan. No one could have prepared for the splendor of the reception hall. 400 could easily fill the space. Looked like that was how many had been invited too. Near the top of the hall, a dais held thrones contoured of red cloth and bearing gold embellishments, placed under a white canopy, festooned with freshly cut jasmine vines.
Maybe the reason that the divorce rate is so low in India is because people can only afford one of these each lifetime.
Kane said.
That also sort of makes the reincarnation thing make sense, too. The only way you could pull off something this big, more than once, is to live more than once.
To the side, a half-dozen poster boards mounted on easels sat at irregular intervals. We approached one near the back of the hall and scouted. My finger traced over the plan, until finally I found our betters and Kay Kennedy at a table near the bride, along with Andrea and Nicole, Kamakshi's Stanford advisor, and a few of her San Francisco coworkers. It seemed this was where the foreign contingent would be, which included
X. Ohms.
Kane read aloud the moment my eyes bulged out of my head.
Well, isn't that interesting?
I guess Kamakshi figured since I'm the only person he knows here, that would make sense. I shrugged in an effort to thwart all the butterflies in my stomach from the memory of Xavier's lips, which I told myself was unnecessary. It hadn't been anything, right? Xavier had only been testing me, and I'd passed. We'd sat together at a table and had dinner before, so what was the difference now? Getting so worked up over his proximity was silly. Kane tugged me along insistently.
Shall we then?
For the next 30 minutes, we rounded the room, introducing ourselves. A few of Kamakshi's relatives remembered me from my last visit, though I was ashamed to admit that only their nameless faces had stuck in my memories. Finally, a low hum arose from near the doors. A tunnel of people formed right before the house lights lowered, and drum-driven Indian music filled the air. Kane yipped as I grabbed his hand and yanked. "Come on, I want a good view of this."
Why? What's going on?
The entrance. I'm not sure what they're doing, but Kamakshi said I was really going to be wowed. I want to be close. Indian weddings, I knew from experience, were not mundane, humble affairs. The reception, in particular, wasn't only a social function. It was considered by many to be an entertainment extravaganza. The pulsing beat over the speakers set the room buzzing. All about, the crowd clapped and hollered. When the doors opened, Kamakshi's parents made their way through the aisle of humanity, dancing a jaunty, rehearsed routine. At the end of the line, Kamakshi's father buried his head in his wife's chest and shook, sending out a round of wolf whistles. Neela played off the act with a frisky slap. Another, more elderly couple followed. Prashant's parents, I concluded, who also did their best through stiff joints to give the ensemble a little joy and a tiny laugh. Kamakshi's cousins and other members of the wedding party were next. This youthful group of 10 stopped in the midst of the crowd and proceeded to break out in a full-scale choreographed routine worthy of the cinema.
Wow, this is incredible.
Kane pulled me into his embrace from behind, following his exclamation with a peck on my cheek. "Told you so." I reached up and placed a hand on his cheek. The beat had infected us both. We bounced in time, Kane occasionally taking the opportunity to press his lips to my neck. The routine ended with the men picking up the women and throwing them over their shoulders, dragging them off into the crowd, except for one couple. The woman dressed in a voluminous purple sari feigned frustration as her milquetoast male partner tried unsuccessfully to heave her up. Finally, she ended the bit by leaning over and taking him into her arms, whisking him away from the hooting onlookers. When Kamakshi and Prashant finally entered, I understood how much she'd undersold the event. Prashant came first, a golden cord in his hand. Parading into the hall, he pulled the rope along until, eventually, it ended tied around the railing of an open-air litter. 4 men walked in perfectly matched cadence, each with an end of the litter's 2 poles on their shoulders. Kamakshi's red clothing made her look like a sacred fire burning on high as they passed. She threw flowers from a basket clutched to her chest. It wasn't until they'd cleared the crowd and lowered the litter to the floor that I recognized one of the bearers. "Xav." He caught my gaze and saluted me with 2 fingers flicked off his right eyebrow. His left hand stayed wrapped around the pole on which the litter rested, which in turn sat on his shoulder. The fabric of his shirt, pulled tight by his labor, brought the image of his well-defined chest to the forefront of my mind. Xavier wasn't a muscular behemoth, but he certainly couldn't be shelved under scrawny. Butterflies awakened within me, a fluttering sensation in the least businesslike areas of my body. Unbidden, my mind ran away with the contemplation of what those muscles would look like as they strained to hold up his body, of how I'd like to see those biceps tense as his hands planted into the mattress on either side of my head, of how it would feel to bear the weight of his frame on my own. Kane pointed a finger and an accusation the headhunter's way, breaking into my thoughts.
You're one of the bride's best friends, and you weren't in the wedding party. How did he manage to sneak in?
Luckily, his eyes were trained on Xavier, letting me recover from my breath-stealing daydream. I have no idea how he sneaks into a lot of things. Like my fantasies, I thought. As the team of carriers lowered the litter and the crowd fell in to shake Prashant's hand or rub Kamakshi's head, Xavier turned against the flow and walked to a nearby table. He rescued his jacket, someone must have brought it in for him, and a folio from the table. So he was armed and prepared to work. The realization that Xavier was able to remain all business while I was dizzy and flustered just from watching him kicked my butt. God, why did he have to tell how he diagnosed me so perfectly? Hadn't he ever heard that ignorance was bliss? Now I'd become hypersensitive to every possible traitorous thought.
Rose, are you okay, sweetheart? Your cheeks are red as cherries.
Just overheated. Kane wrapped an arm around me, leading me away from the hubbub.
Come on, let's go outside for a few minutes.
I'm not really sure cooling off by going out into the hot, humid, and crowded street is really a good solution. I tried not to sound condescending, but somehow pulled it off anyway. To my astonishment, he chuckled and continued to lead me toward the door.
All the same, the fresh air will do you good.
We had just about achieved an exit when Neela caught me by the arm.
Here she is, the girl I was talking about. Rosalind, this is my brother Kunal and his wife Meena.
Kane ceded to the matron's insistent tug only after I told him to go ahead. I'd be along in a moment. He leaned in and kissed me on the cheek.
I spotted a little tea garden just up the street on our way here. Turn right when you come out. I'll grab us a table and something refreshing.
Inwardly, I sighed but was resolved to stay gracious. After all, Neela had more than been hospitable, welcoming me on several visits as a member of the family. The old woman turned me around to the expectant eyes of her relatives.
You see this? Such pale skin, but how bold the pattern is because of it. Next to Kamakshi's the best henna work of the lot.
Neela's sister-in-law looked down her nose.
And you did this?
Neela nodded.
And this?
The accusing woman's finger traced up to where the pattern was disrupted by an unseemly blotch. As though someone had just pointed to a fly in her curry, Neela snapped up my arm and drew it to eye level.
That wasn't there last night.
Neela's expression begged for an explanation.
Did it smudge when you washed off the mehndi? Wasn't it dry enough? Still, it would take a few minutes to set.
Rosalind.
We turned in unison when Xavier spoke to the women collectively. Taking 2 steps toward the party, I about passed out when the French-Canadian headhunter began to spout Hindi. He pressed his hands together and saluted Neela and the other 2 elders while he prattled on saying God only knows what. I wanted to pick my chin up off the floor, but found myself entranced. Perhaps for my benefit, Neela moved the conversation to English.
We are very delighted you're here, Mr. Holmes. Thank you for coming all the way from San Francisco to assist in this matter.
This matter? My right eyebrow quirked. I thought you were here to scout for candidates for placement.
Actually, I'm here to see through one placement in particular.
Xavier reached out a hand to Neela in offering.
Mrs. Puree, May I steal away Miss Betters for a moment? I need to speak to her urgently.
Neela's eyes fixed on Xavier's hand before she finally blossomed into a cat that got the cream grin and reached out to take it.
Of course.
Xavier's hand went to the small of my back as he guided me toward the door, sending a bristle up my spine that I had to admit was not entirely unpleasant. It was, however, completely inappropriate for a woman engaged to another, or about to be engaged. Whatever, I believed in rounding up. "I didn't know you spoke Hindi," I said as I adjusted my pace to pull away from him. I saw the corner of his mouth quirk.
And French, though you know where I'm from, so that probably doesn't surprise you. I also speak Italian, as you know, and some basic Mandarin. That's important, but we'll get back to that later.
Later? And what is this all about, that you need to talk to me so urgently? I was just stepping out to do something.
No, we have to talk now.
He took a right, leading us into a staff staging area. All around, waiters set up trays of food, preparing to move to the floor as soon as Kamakshi and Prashant had taken their seats at the front of the hall. It was as though we were mist amongst minstrels. No one paid us any heed. Is there a reason we need to go into hiding? Is there some corporate takeover afoot you're aware of and want to let me in on? He stopped and turned. I realized suddenly we were masked from sight, standing behind a potted palm at the side of the room.
First, I'm sorry.
He began when we stood face to face. For what? Last night? We already went over that. It's not like anything really happened. And I get what you were trying to do.
No, I don't think you do. And I'm not apologizing for what I said. I'm apologizing for this.
He held up his left hand and wiggled his fingers. As my eyes adjusted to the dimness, I realized that something about those digits was very off, as though he were wearing a red glove, which of course he wasn't. Colors took on meaning as it dawned on me. "Oh my God, the Mendy, you smudged it." Anila, she saw that, didn't she? I poked a finger into his chest. "In all that hindi-bindi you guys were just doing, did you tell her what almost happened last night?"
I didn't have to say a thing about it.
"What do you mean you didn't have to say a thing? How else would she know unless you said something?"
Something she said just now. I'm sorry, I didn't realize the henna was on my fingers until this morning. I was distracted last night. I didn't notice.
"Well, that's just great. Neela's got many fine qualities, but keeping secrets isn't one. Tell me what this is all about so I can go cut her off before the news reaches Bombay and Bermuda." He swooped a folio out from under his arm and presented it into my hands. I eyed it suspiciously, as though expecting it to explode or transform into a bunny rabbit. "A weird time to present me a bill. I haven't even popped the question yet."
Good,
Xavier tapped the folio insistently.
because you should look at this, so you can make a truly informed decision.
My hands began to rise, but something in the way the movement made his eyes light up gave me pause. "What do you seem to think I'm misinformed about?"
Kane,
Xavier declared.
you're wrapped up in the fantasy that you're falling for him. But I see now you're only falling for him because you've misconstrued what it is you deserve. I did too, but we can fix it. Just please, look at this.
"Are you crazy?" I coughed out a laugh. "Don't presume to tell me what I feel and don't feel. Now please, I have to go talk with Neela before it's too late. I swear, Xav, if the little maneuver of yours last night or anything you just said ends up costing me Kane, you can kiss your commission goodbye."
You are an obstinate woman sometimes, you know that? Fine, you don't want to listen. Then I'll show you how wrong Kane is for you.
My breath whooshed out when he moved his hands to my hips, making the folio fall to the ground. He dug his fingers in and anchored his grip. The struggle I put up? It fell flat. Having his hands on me just felt too good. Still, my brain made a last-ditch effort at a rational response. What are you doing? His lips lowered to mine as he pushed me against the wall with his body.
Kissing my commission goodbye.
And kissing me was exactly the way he did just that. I must have slipped on my way out of the reception hall and knocked myself out cold. Xavier couldn't possibly be kissing me here, now, at Kamakshi's wedding. Xavier, who mind, was not a bad kisser, but had just convinced me the night before that pursuing Kane was in fact still a good idea, despite the false example it was based upon. Xavier, who declared kissing me such an awful experience that I'd not even make it on his list of bedroom buddies if given the option. I especially could not be kissing him while clutching a handbag that contained the engagement ring I'd bought to propose to Kane. No way. Impossible. As my lips caressed his, however, reality went Red Rover and finally succeeded in breaking through. I couldn't back away. Xavier had me pinned. When I put my hands flat against his chest and gently pushed, however, he ceded and opened a small space between us.
Rosalind, please, don't.
I glared. Don't what? Don't keep my wits about me? Don't let myself get tricked by your test to prove to me how good you are at diagnosing people? Don't let you pull me into a dark corner and kiss me?
I'm all for you doing that last one, actually.
He exhaled heavily.
And I didn't test you.
My hands flew to his wrists, arresting his attempt to pull me back to him. That whole any man would be lucky to have you, and you sabotage relationships spiel you were on. I thought you were saying all that to get me over my doubts about Kane. And the near kiss, your way to show me that I might tend to sabotage, but I didn't have to.
You think that's why I tried to kiss you last night? To shore up your ties to Kane?
Xavier hitched his elbow on the wall over my shoulder and flexed back his arm to run a hand through his hair.
That kiss we shared after the opera? It's been on my mind every moment since then. I can't stop thinking about you.
So, what, you lied to me about that? That you thought we'd never work together? His lips parted, but it was obvious the words didn't want to come easily.
Technically, I didn't lie. I said you and I would never work as a one-night stand. That's because I'd never be able to accept that our relationship would be that short.
I huffed. And you've waited until now? Literally moments from when I'm about to propose to the man you found for me to say anything?
It's complicated.
Xavier let out a groan.
The only way I could get to this point is by not trying.
Well, that makes about as much sense as a wheelchair for a tuna fish.
I tried to be patient. I hoped what I felt for you would pass. After I accepted it, I needed you to figure out that you and I should be together. But we're up against a wall now. Even if the fallout of telling you is that I won't just lose you, I'll lose my company and my reputation, I have to do it. I have to tell you I love you before you throw yourself away on Kane.
Oh, God, this isn't happening. It can't be. Kane is... You picked Kane. Don't dare tell me now that you think he's a mistake.
He is, but he's my mistake, not yours. Not yet.
His elbow dropped as he gently lowered my arms. He leaned in. And wow, if I didn't do the same.
I see what's hidden beneath the surface. I understand who you are, Rosalind Betters. I understand what you need, and I know I can be the man to give it to you.
I couldn't stop my eyes from rolling as I ducked out from under his arms. Oh, please, you're not the Rosalind Whisperer. Just because you can track down a great CFO doesn't mean you know what's in my heart. You couldn't possibly know that I have feelings for you. A smile danced in his voice and raised a corner of his mouth. Xavier pushed off the wall, leaned over, and collected his fallen folio from the floor.
If you can't be honest with me, at least be honest with yourself. When you found out about Kamakshi's secret last night, that just lit on fire the tinderbox you were already carrying around. Tell me, had you any niggling doubts?
My doubts don't niggle. If he thought I was going to give him an inch in this conversation, he was crazy. Even if what he was suggesting were true, all relationships carried a smidgen of concern, didn't they? It proved nothing. In fact, it only validated it. Relationships that seemed too good to be true usually were.
There should be doubts because he's not right for you. I would never have paired you with him.
I turned, confusion marring my features. But he was in the folio you left at my loft.
Accidentally left. If I knew now what I knew then, you wouldn't have seen it at all. My methodology is skewed in the case of Kane Kennedy because of your prior relationship with him.
There was no prior relationship, I interjected. We never dated at Stanford. In fact, we only said hello to each other a handful of times. I would never have...
Dated someone like him back then.
Xavier completed for me.
Yes, I know. And until what you told me in the elevator this morning, I thought it was because you thought you weren't worthy of him. I thought you were trying to correct that past sense of inferiority by proving you were worthy of him now. But you know what, Rosalind? You're not worthy of him.
As though someone had just whacked me on the back with a Louisville slugger, I felt all the air in my lungs perform an emergency escape. Excuse me?
You are not worthy of him.
Xavier repeated in a slow, measured tone.
That night I intercepted you at the charity ball. I was on assignment from Kane. He said he had heard rumors that you were haughty and superior. He didn't want someone who wouldn't be willing to step back and let a man have some say. He had me to devise a pre-screening to see if you had the ability to bend.
Oh my God, the dance. It was a dominance assessment, wasn't it? I mean, wow, I see it all so clearly now. To be led in a dance is nothing. A tart tinge of bile danced on my tongue. But to woo me, so I wanted to kiss you. You were seeing how susceptible I was to seduction and suggestion. Xavier Holmes, I may have thought too much of you.
I'm not some closeted sexist, Rosalind. Don't give me that look. I can see in your eyes that's what you're thinking. At the time, he was the candidate I was considering for you because he represented the fantasy. Rich, powerful, slightly domineering, and how shall I say, in demand?
Xavier shrugged.
I would have explained this all to you if you'd just have asked me instead of tracking him down yourself. He wants someone with a strong head, but not as strong as his. And that's what I mean by you don't deserve him. You don't deserve to be controlled in that way. He sees you as a project, and mark my words, the moment you don't meet his expectations, you'll lose him. And if you ever do meet his expectations, you'll lose yourself.
Stunned into silence, I suddenly felt a chill creep across my skin. Despite the fact that in a semi-tropical climate, and standing in a room next to the kitchens, the air was anything but cold. Maybe I didn't have Xavier's ability for insight into the human psyche, but darn it, I knew Kane well enough. That wasn't the kind of person he was at all. He was interested in my day, my dreams, my ambitions. Wasn't he?
You know that, Rosalind, and that's why you're doubting. Don't do it. Don't let go everything you are in the hopes of becoming something you've never been. Don't marry Kane.
This couldn't be true. Just couldn't. I don't believe you.
Good.
Xavier put his hands on my upper arms, pressing his folio into one side.
Don't believe me just because I say it. I haven't earned that yet. Go discover it for yourself.
And what? Break up with Kane and be with you? You realize that if it gets out that I employed you for this, and you decided to take the position yourself, how it will make you look. I have an out. I'm female. All the Silicon Valley brass will say I was just being silly and hormonal. It's amazing how often they overlook a woman's actions as the consequence of having ovaries. But if anyone ever found out you put yourself forward as a candidate for a job you were hired to headhunt,
Then we'll just have to make sure no one finds out, mon coeur.
his lips pressed to mine, making my insides shift. deep within me, a long-forgotten flame kindled to life. Xavier deepened the kiss, pulling our bodies together. Powerless, I moaned into his mouth as he artfully managed to take the movements up another level. All too suddenly, I recognized the burning within for what it was. Spark.
I wouldn't have you do anything.
He said at last when he pulled back.
I don't make demands. That's not who I am. If you truly think you love Kane and that you'll be happy with him, go propose. But I know men like him, Rosalind. He's wooing you, but the second you get down on one knee for him, he's going to expect you to be doing something else. I get wanting a partner. I get wanting an equal. But don't choose someone who, in the best case scenario, can only match you by rounding up.
Xavier pecked again at my lips.
If you must marry, marry me.
Pulling away, I nodded slowly, though if there was anything I truly understood at the moment, it was how screwed up this had all become. What had happened? I'd pursued this whole gambit because I didn't have time for this wishy-washy, woo-you-wobbly romance mumbo-jumbo. I just wanted a partner, a friend, a spouse. I had never considered that I could have all those things and love too. But it was too late. I'd set out on the path already, and I was far too long down the road to change course now. I'm sorry, I muttered as I withdrew from Xavier's embrace. I can't. I backed myself to the exit, refusing to entertain any 13th-hour negotiations by a third party. I knew my mind, and I knew my plan. And God's be forgotten, I knew my own heart. It was like Neela had said, in time, love will grow. All relationships had give and take. No, Kane might not be perfect. I knew there would be some small things I'd have to bend on, as would he. A little voice in the back of my head snickered. But he was perfect enough for me. I caught Kamakshi's concerned gaze from across the room as I fled from the service hall and into the reception area. The music's rhythm drove the crowd on, but something still managed to float across the width of the room between us. I wondered if perhaps Neela had found the opportunity to tell her daughter something, some suspicion she'd cobbled out of a collection of odd circumstances. I held up my handbag, the very small ring inside feeling much heavier than it had minutes ago, and waved. To my surprise, Kamakshi grinned, then winked. Only when I looked over my shoulder did I see that a disheveled and mussy-haired Xavier, who had followed me into the hall, was actually the one my best friend had spotted. Straightening my sari, I turned on heel, ramming Xavier with my shoulder as I passed, making a grand show of it. I cast one more glance over my shoulder as I pushed the door open. On the far dais, Prashant kissed his wife's hand with a tenderness and awe that was almost palpable. I wanted that. I wanted to have an opportunity to inspire in someone that kind of awe. I had someone willing to give it to me. I had a gown and a ring. It was about time I got the groom. Chapter 30, Rosalind. The spot Kane found proved so secluded that I wouldn't have found him at all if the maitre d' hadn't recognized my bewilderment and identified me as the beautiful young woman who that tall, handsome man is waiting for. Though nothing more than a wide alley between buildings that had had plants and vines coaxed onto anything that would hold them. The urban garden held charm. Each table was a platform about the size of a full bed, overlaid with cushions, and beset with a tray on which cups, spoons, and a sugar bowl sat.
Isn't it spectacular?
Offering a hand, Kane helped pull me up on the platform. I kicked off my shoes and followed, my handbag clutched tightly. When I had settled down next to him, Kane put his arms around me, drawing me near to plant a kiss on my temple. I breathed in his scent, a mix of spicy aftershave and debonair cologne, closing my eyes as I let both sensations overwhelm me.
I was starting to get worried. Something happen?
I sucked in my bottom lip, The term liar didn't sit well with me. Still, there was no need to upset Kane with Xavier's crazy actions. Kamakshi's mom just sort of... My hands made a motion I hoped filled in enough words. Kane leaned to take up a tulip-shaped cup. He brought it to my hands and rested my back against his chest.
Ah, yes, Indian mothers. I've heard rumors. But we're alone now. Well, alone in public. I was getting a little anxious in there. So many people, so few familiar faces.
You don't like being around strangers? I smacked the bitter, lukewarm brew on my palate. How odd for someone in your profession.
I think you know what I mean when I say people, Rosalind.
Kane winked. I felt myself bristle at the insinuation, but admitted even to myself that I sometimes read too much into things. I kept quiet, hoping he'd illuminate the comment.
Finance is very true to its image. It's an old boys' club. Sure, a handful of people come and go with any new deal, but there tends to be consistency in the principles and the type of people they are. I'm a fan of consistency. I like to know who I'm dealing with. History builds trust with me. I'm always suspicious of anyone sneaking in to take what's rightfully mine.
Guilt punched me in the gut and took the tea from my mouth. I sat up, sputtering, trying to figure out if I heard what I just thought I'd heard. Kane dotted my mouth with a napkin.
You're just gonna force me into the doting boyfriend role today, aren't you?
He joked. Sorry, I got something stuck. After a few more moments, I managed to sound less like a frog and more like a woman. Type of people?
You know, people like you and me. Good education, good backgrounds, have our heads on right about the world. Not saying that particularly describes some of those venture capitalists down in the valley. Lots of techno-riche. That wedding was just so loud and colorful and, common.
Common? I twisted around as I brought my knees underneath me. And techno-riche? You realize I'm one of them, right?
Yes, but sweetheart, you're you.
Kane said, as though that was a self-evident truth, and somehow a disqualifier.
You're not like a lot of these new money.comers. You went to Stanford, for goodness sake.
A lot of people go to Stanford, Kane. Intelligent, hardworking people who, despite that, don't end up with a fancy house or a private jet. His eyebrow arched downward, just like our conversation.
Did I say something to upset you?
No. Yes, I just... Refocus. I lectured myself. Don't sabotage this. Kane, I'm going to ask you a very sincere question. I narrowed my gaze on his expression. What do you think of me? No, wait. What do you think of us? A devilish grin cracked across his lips.
I think it's a good idea. I specialize in mergers and acquisitions, you know. The possibility of this one is pretty impressive. Also, there's the fact that you want to marry me, which makes this even more ideal.
My spine snapped straighter than a needle to the north. What? Kane answered with a grin. He reached down into his inner pocket and fished out a creamy white silk pouch.
Holmes contacted me to see if I was interested in being a candidate for nothing less than matrimony. I've kept it at the forefront of my mind, the position for which I was being recruited. Have to admit, the interview's been different than I pictured, but I'm sure I want the job.
Only, I interjected, it's usually the employer who makes the offer. As a ring with a diamond just large enough to be showy but small enough not to be obscene slid from the sack into Kane's palm, he looked up questioningly.
You want to be the one to propose? All right. Let me hear your offer. You should know, though, I might want to negotiate terms and I play hardball.
We'll see about that. I leaned forward, my own intended engagement ring for him forgotten and balanced on the balls of my hands. But first, I have one question. Why me and why now? An amused eyebrow arched.
Technically, that's 2 questions.
Kane, seriously, out of the dozen or so people I was presented, I picked you. You picked me back, even though every attempt I made in college to grab your attention failed.
Oh, believe me, I noticed you back then.
He hesitated. When the stolid manner I'd adopted endured, he continued.
But we both know I was a male slut back then. Rumors were you didn't put out. I'm ashamed of it, but I can't change the past, Rose. I can only promise you a future. Though, let the record reflect, as you'll discover tonight, I'm still perfectly gifted in the art of caning.
My cheeks stained crimson. I'm sure you are.
Just want to make sure I'm giving full disclosures on this property.
He sucked in a deep breath as he reached for my hand.
Then, out of nowhere, I get a phone call from that headhunter. Sir, he said, I know it seems crazy, but trust me, it's not. This woman is the single most intelligent, ambitious, and passionate client I've ever worked for. And, well, I guess it intrigued me, so I asked him if you were also beautiful. Her eyes are gemstones, he said, and her smile could turn back a storm, and when she looks at you, you feel like all you need in life is to know that a woman like that loves you, and everything else is meaningless. Can you believe that? I mean, I was convinced I was half in love with you already. He asked me if I thought I deserved a woman like that. I said yes, and when I found out it was you...
I couldn't stop shaking.
Rose, are you okay?
It felt like my lungs were lined with lead. He really went for the hard sell, didn't he? Kane's mouth curled into a smile. He reached out and brushed over my cheek with the back of his fingers.
Nothing about choosing you was hard. I've been thinking it was time for me to settle down for a while. We're not kids anymore. Time for both of us to start building our legacies. I need a woman at my side who will give the right impression, be the right kind of wife, understand when I need to stay late at the office or take off for meetings in Paris last minute. You need a husband who will understand that you have your little projects too.
My little projects? You mean Beta House? He smiled.
I know it's important to you, and I won't complain about all the time it takes you away from home. I'll be very supportive of it, even after the kids come.
Only the lack of blood and brains on Kane's face told me that my head didn't actually just explode.
It's destiny.
Kane said, ignorant of how far down he just dug himself.
When Holmes called me just days after your big deal was announced, I was being given a second chance to claim you.
A second chance when you just admitted that during the first chance, all you were after was sex? The idiotic Adonis shrugged.
I still want that. Just not exclusively.
Kane finally succeeded in pushing the ring onto my finger, if only because I'd been stupefied by what I just heard.
Now, let's get married and get on with it. FYI, if you'd like to just head back to the hotel, I'd be happy to demonstrate my ability, as promised.
The diamond winked up at me. Or maybe it was sticking its tongue out. Suddenly, I felt very sick to my stomach. My pulse pounded, dampening all ambient sound. Air became a precious commodity that I could barely obtain. Kane hung on my every mannerism, waiting for me to say something, anything, to validate all he'd just thrown out. For the foregone conclusion, he thought, he'd been given a second chance to claim me, as though I was a trophy or a prize. And he was totally right. I was a trophy. I was the reward for someone who put in the time and effort to know me, to support me, who had laid himself bare and left the next step up to me, for who I wasn't a foregone conclusion. When I decided to go see a headhunter about this, I pictured my best-case scenario of what would come of it. Know what? This is exactly what I envisioned. The ring, the proposal, a handsome fiancé, I said, and yet there's one thing that I could never have anticipated.
What is that?
Kane asked. I never thought I'd fall in love too. Kane's wall fell. Leaning into me, trying to capture a kiss, the words began to fall from his lips.
And I love Rose? Rosalind, what are you doing? Where are you going?
I had scooted off the cushions and was back up, maneuvering my feet into my shoes before he could blink. As Kane's expression flattened into confusion, I wrapped my fingers around the band of gold and pulled it off. I held it out to Kane at arm's length. I'm so sorry, Kane, but...
It's not me.
Understanding filled his long face.
You fell in love, but not with me.
I had never known guilt could weigh down the body as well as the soul. I might not want him, but he wasn't a bad guy. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. Confused, Kane swung his head in wide strokes.
You seriously can't think I'm going to stand for this. I mean, Jesus Christ, Rose. I flew all the way to goddamned India to appease you. Do you know how many women would die to be in your place? And do you know what's going to happen when everyone finds out you're so desperate for a man you had to pay someone to find one for you? You'll be a laughingstock.
So, the snake had begun to shed its skin. Xavier had been right not only about me, but about Kane too. Why should I be? How is it any different from what Kamakshi and Prashant or literally thousands of other people do?
Are you kidding?
He scurried to his feet, shooting a finger in the air.
Because you're not from some third world backwater country. People are plenty open-minded about something until they're not.
You just proved it. I pummeled the ring at his chest. Consider any offer you were hoping for off the table, Kane. You're fired.
You never hired me.
With as much bluster as he could muster, Kane slipped his shoes back on.
And you can't fire me. I quit. Enjoy the rest of your stay in India. I'm going home and screwing every woman who comes on to me for the next week.
I snatched my clutch and stuffed it under my arm. The funny thing about that, Kane, is that you don't realize you already have.
Think you're funny, do you?
He seethed, actually visibly seethed.
See if you can laugh at this. I've been working out a deal to buy Beta House for the last few weeks. The second I found out what you were after from home, I knew I could turn this to my advantage. The only stupid thing I did was think that I had to marry you first to get to it.
I clutched my chest, trying to stop my heart from exploding through. You were going to marry me just to get Beta House?
Romance is fine, but business always comes first. How long did you think it was going to take for your company to get bought out after that deal with C-Tech? You were in such a rush to get married. I knew you weren't going to hold up to work out too tricky of a prenup. A couple of years, and all your trade secrets exposed to me, and I'd get your company in my portfolio one way or another. But thank you for saving me the time. I don't quite have enough funds to buy you outright. But the second I tell your investors the crazy things you're up to, they're going to issue immediate payment demands.
No way, I spat out. There's no way you have enough backing to buy my debts and enough clout to manipulate my equity like that. Kane bristled.
I have connections at every financial firm in the city. Within 3 days, Beta House will lose half its value when you default on your loans. Within a week, I'll convince my partners to pick up your debts cheap. You think I've lost you? It's more like you've just lost Beta House. Then, soon as I get enough funding in place, I'll buy out that headhunter's interests too. You'll both be ruined. I hope Xavier Holmes is worth it.
And with that, he pushed past me and out into the street.
Chapter 31. Xavier. Note to readers. The following chapter has been modified from its original content to fit YouTube guidelines for a posting of this rating. However, it does contain a scene of an adult nature, even if the language and details have been softened. The unedited version of this chapter is included in the commercial release of the audiobook, available from Tulip Noir Press at tulipnoirpress.com. I'd done everything I could. Now all that was left was the fallout. In the best-case scenario, the only other thing Rosalind could do now was fire me, which, all in all, was probably appropriate. Even if Kane did accept her proposal, would I really be able to tolerate watching her start her life with another man, a man I'd been responsible for finding? Not even someone as practiced in the arts of professionalism from a respectable distance as me stood a chance. With a sigh, I relaxed my fingers and allowed the folio with my information in it to fall to its death in the rubbish bin. It was over. Rosalind and Kane would marry. Maybe in a year, Kane would even succeed at canoodling her to change her mind about children. It wouldn't last. I projected the breakup somewhere between 48 and 60 months, and that was being generous. She'd never marry again. She wasn't the type. Rosalind would spend the rest of her life consumed with her work. Perhaps she'd occasionally look back with regret at not listening to me when I warned her. A chiding voice within said I could hang around and wait, to be there to comfort her on that distant day when her matrimony project flatlined. Slapping cold water on my face awakened my senses. I'd had just enough time to take a shower and pack after calling the airline. As horrible as everything was, I knew the only thing that could make today worse was seeing Kane and Rosalind making their way around wedding festivities, being congratulated on their engagement. I slipped on a pair of jeans and a white tee, far more plebeian than my usual dress, but I'd take comfort anywhere I could find it. The knock on the door came just as I zipped up my suitcase. Just a second. I grabbed the door handle as I worked the locks. Thanks for coming up so quickly. I really need to... Oh, Rosa. I mean, Ms. Betters. Not for the first time, I came up short when I tried to read her emotions. No pouty lips or dull eyes, no slow mannerisms or twirling fingers. She was frankly all business. I could do that. I could wear a mask and not let her know this was killing me.
Mr. Holmes.
She dipped her head. How could she be so stoic, like I hadn't just asked her to marry me 2 hours before? Her eyes went to my suitcase.
You're leaving?
I dropped the bag like a child caught with a midnight snack and trying to hide evidence. I think it might be best, given that... My voice trailed off. Putting her henna-painted hand over her mouth, Rosalind cleared her throat.
I'll get to the point then. It's urgent business.
Awkwardly, I stood aside and motioned her in. Unlike the night before, Rosalind stayed on her feet and on her game, giving a dictionary-worthy performance of the term unflappable. Due diligence, a blind hope to shield my employees from the consequences of my decisions, pressed me to speak first. I know I stepped over the line and put my professionalism in question. I'll notify my staff when I return that we have agreed to an amicable end and that Beta House is no longer one of our clients. I only ask that you keep the details private. My people are dedicated and hard-working. Don't punish them because of what I did.
You think I'm here to fire you?
Rosalind looked perplexed.
On the contrary, I've just become aware of a critical opening, and I need the best candidate ASAP. You need to start working on this now. No time to wait until you get back to the office.
Her eyes shot suggestively to the hotel-branded notepad on a nearby desk.
Perhaps you'd like to jot this down.
With a sigh of resignation mixed with relief, I shoved my hands in my pockets and turned my eyes to the floor. Ms. Betters, I'm not sure this is a good time. I have to get to the airport, and
I'll double your standard commission.
Arms crossed over her chest. Rosalind looked down her nose at me expectantly.
You're still the best at what you do, and I only want to work with the best. If double isn't enough, tell me how much is.
I blinked, then straightened while I took up the notepad and a pen. Fine, but you should know that when I get back to the office, I'll be transferring management of the Beta House portfolio to Jack Colbon.
Sounds like a good idea. After today, you and I can't work together anymore. It would be inappropriate.
The sting of her words made me hiss. What did I expect, though? I wouldn't even be surprised if Kane had made it a condition of their nuptials. It would be in line with his inner alpha male. Rosalind began to enunciate details.
The candidate needs to be able to start work immediately. That's very important. Make a note of that and underline it twice.
Yes, Miss Betters. The increased pressure on the pen made it scratch the paper. Qualifications? She balanced her chin on her index finger.
Truthfulness, commitment, compassion, and I shouldn't have to mention that I value intelligence and education.
She looked at me pointedly.
Just curiously, Mr. Holmes, where did you go to school?
Exhaling at the need to discuss myself, I answered, University of Toronto for my undergrad, then Purdue for my master's.
Really?
She asked, as though I had just rambled off that I knew pi to 50 places.
Both really good schools.
Turning, she continued,
I also value language and would prefer someone multilingual.
I rolled my eyes. Any particular language?
I'm glad you asked. This trip to India has let me see my future more clearly. Hindi is most useful, but I would really like someone who speaks French as well.
With a grin, Rosalind planted her hands on the edge of the desk behind her, arching her back and looking as coquettish as a teenage crush.
You speak both of those languages, don't you?
She purred. What the? No, this couldn't be happening. She wasn't. I swallowed a lump of nerves. Rosalind?
Answer the question, Mr. Holmes.
I also have a working knowledge of Italian. My love of the opera runs deep. I ceased scratching notes and put the pen and notepad down. Can I guess the rest of your qualifications? I took one step toward her, but didn't dare too much, too soon. Her smile broadened.
Do.
A disposition toward professionalism and discretion. A sense of humor, I said, inching closer. I might mention here the fact that I'm a man living in one of the most technologically innovative places in the world, but I prefer vinyl records. I've never streamed a single song. Some might find that funny. Is that good enough? Rosalind straightened, put one fist on her hip, and invoked Mae West.
Too much of a good thing can be wonderful.
If you forget about earlier today, I think my professionalism speaks for itself. As for discretion, I would note that I made sure we were alone in a dark corner, without prying eyes before I kissed you, and I plan on being equally discreet when we make love for the first time. I'll be sure we're somewhere where no one will hear you call out my name. She stared blankly in the air, nodding slowly, as I stalked her like a lion to prey, advancing on her with heavy-lidded eyes.
You've almost forgotten that the candidate must be male. You'll excuse my asking, but after all, we do live in San Francisco, and I've learned one cannot always assume. Are you male, Mr. Holmes?
I looked down at the small distance left between us. Leaning down, I cupped my hands under Rosalind's knees, pulling up her legs and pushing her back to sit atop the desk. Allow me to show you my portfolio. The skirting of her sari hitched up. When she arched back and pushed her hips forward, clear thoughts became impossible. Need overrode concern. My hands snaked around her hips and pulled her flush against me, making her gasp and grin as her thighs anchored on my hips. Rosalind must have felt empirically the answer to her question beneath my button fly.
Oh, you are indeed very male.
More so by the moment. Neither of us could deny the gravity between us anymore. I devoured Rosalind, pressing my mouth to hers, taking pride in the way she moaned as I tasted her. My fingers laced behind her back, and I felt myself instinctively move, my body wanting to demonstrate to her the fact my heart had already declared, and which now fell from my lips unbidden. Je t'aime. Rosalind pulled back, her breath shaky and her pupils dilated.
Jusai?
I paused on her lip. I didn't know you spoke French.
A smattering, not well. My Mandarin is better.
I hitched an eyebrow. What else have you been hiding from me, Rosalind? Her hand snaked down between us.
I've never wanted a man more than when you kissed me outside the opera house. And that night, when I got home, I spent out a set of D batteries.
She initiated a gentle rhythm with her hand.
Remember that opening that I said I needed to fill immediately?
Yes, I did. And now I knew which one. I swept her from the desk, my hands full of Rosalind's perfect backside as she became busy trying to pull out my hair. I'd gotten us halfway across the room, en route to the bed, when there was a knock on the door. In a blind head-on collision with reality, I suddenly remembered that I was, in fact, sharing a room with Kane Kennedy, who had already demonstrated a profundity for bad timing. In an exchange of glances, I could tell the same thought was going through Rosalind's mind as well. I groaned and lowered her to the floor. How do you want to handle this? Rosalind examined her sari, smoothing it back down over her legs and throwing the long accompanying scarf back over her shoulder.
With professionalism, I'm sure we can still manage to eke out a little bit of that between the two of us.
I laced my fingers through Rosalind's and squeezed as I leaned sideways to plant a kiss on her cheek. I'll be here. She winked as she made her way to the door.
I'm so planning on it.
We both breathed a sigh of relief when, instead of Kane, an abashed young man with a luggage cart stood on the other side.
Someone asked for help with luggage?
The thin-as-a-cracker boy looked confusedly at us. I reminded myself that the bellman at a hotel likely had seen his share of post-coital couples, and no doubt we looked the part. I wanted to get rid of this man as quickly as possible so I could earn the status. I cleared my throat and indicated the suitcase, garment bag, and laptop carrier next to the door. Those ones there. The bellman flicked his head and made his way into the room, toting his cart behind him.
Going to the airport, sir. Do you need a taxi?
I looked to Rosalind. Do I?
No, you don't.
Rosalind reached for her handbag and pulled out an obscene denomination in green. The valet's eyes bugged from his skull as she handed it over. She took the notepad I'd been using and scribbled something on a fresh sheet of paper.
My name is Rosalind Betters, and this is my room number. These bags will all be going to my suite.
The valet examined the paper and then the century mark in his hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you also tell the front desk to transfer this room over to Kane Kennedy's name? He was originally on my room's records, but that was a clerical error.
Of course, ma'am, I'd be happy to.
Then he took his leave. I turned to Rosalind the moment we were alone and kissed her again. I planned on taking advantage of her lips frequently and fervently. Mon trésor, are you sure?
Oh, the French. Loving the French.
Rosalind pushed 2 fingers to my lips stilling my words.
Absolutely. We have a wedding to plan, after all. We should get to work on it immediately.
Really? I laughed. Because the way you're acting, I think you're much more concerned about making sure we're ready for the honeymoon. A serious look flattened out her smile.
You are going to marry me, aren't you?
Leaning over, I planted a kiss on the tip of her nose. Try and stop me.
Then I have only one other thing to say to you, Mr. Holmes.
Rosalind leaned in. Her lips flushed to mine as she coaxed a band of gold onto the ring finger of my left hand.
You are hired. Chapter 32. Rosalind. Note to readers, the following chapter has been modified from its original content to fit YouTube guidelines for a posting of this rating. However, it does contain a scene of an adult nature, even if the language and details have been softened. The unedited version of this chapter is included in the commercial release of the audiobook, available from Tulip Noir Press at tulipnoirpress.com. Wide-eyed, Xavier looked in confusion at the ring I'd just slipped on his finger.
I can't accept this.
He said, trying to work it off. Laying my hand over his to stop him in the act, I felt my heart in my throat. What? Why? I mean, you asked me to marry you. I thought...
We're going to do this right, Rosalind.
Xavier said, cutting me off.
I know you have the date and the gown all set. Keep the gown, but nix the date. I can't make it anyways. I'm already on calendar to be on the East Coast then. I need more time, though, to properly court you.
Okay, I guess we can push it out a little further. What difference did it make? But by courting me properly, do you mean we shouldn't... This time when Xavier cut me off, it was by pressing his lips to mine. His kiss burned away any doubt. There was no scenario in which we left this room without closing this deal. He pulled away finally when I couldn't go any longer without breathing.
Like I said before, I don't expect you to do anything. But if you'll allow me, there's nothing I'd like more right now than to make love with you, future Mrs. Holmes.
Betters, I corrected him. I plan on keeping my name. But if you'd really like to show how progressive you are, I'd consider an option to call you the future Mr. Betters. Before I knew what was happening, my feet were up in the air and I had my hand circled around Zav's neck. The desire in his eyes as he carried me to the bed was palpable.
Not Betters, mon fils. I'm the best. I'm about to get very, very unprofessional with you. I hope this won't impact my candidacy.
On the contrary, I believe there are many ways one can put in a professional performance. The sari I donned for the wedding involved me being wrapped by one of Kamakshi's cousins in about 10 layers of fabric, all held in place by tucking in the last go-round at the hip. After Xavier laid me on the bed, he slithered down the length of my body, pausing midway and finding the catch. He examined it a moment, maybe expecting to find a zipper or buttons instead, before looking up to meet my eyes.
I'm going to need a little guidance.
It's just a big ace bandage, basically, I offered. Feel free to unbind me. A devilish smile enhanced a devious spirit suddenly burning in his eyes. His face came back up my body, but when his lips touched mine, a wave of desire flooded through me. One of his hands danced over my ribs before flattening against my belly. Xavier worked his way under the folds of fabric.
Executive decision, mon coeur. How far does my hand go down?
You won't make much progress as tight as this sari is unless you take it off. I dug my heels into the mattress and lifted my hips. He moved to the side and began yanking the fabric loose. As soon as it was slack enough, his hand returned to my midriff, then traipsed back into the hidden recesses of my body. I almost fell apart right then. Oh, take me already!
Not yet.
Xavier teased, being annoyingly gentle.
Excuse me for being so blatant, but are you on the pill?
Since my freshman year at college, I confirmed.
Good, then we can proceed.
His cocky grin suggested plots afoot.
I have a three-pronged approach to this transaction involving my hand, my mouth, and then, well, I think you can guess.
O-H-E-double-L, yes. And gulp, you?
Not until I give you 3 times at the gates.
You are a very good task manager, aren't you? He licked his lips.
Almost as good as you.
He didn't have to wait long. It didn't take but another half-minute, coaxed on by his manual dexterity and his languorous kisses for me to reach my zenith. I closed my eyes as a million fireworks went off inside me. Zav, yes, yes. He kept waning and waxing until he sensed that I'd ridden out the last waves of pleasure, and then leaned in to kiss me.
1.
He stood slowly, and I got a view of the Boy Scout jamboree going on. As he leaned over, reaching for layers of crumpled fabric, I put a foot between us. His eyes looked in frustration at the white patent leather heel digging into his chest.
Once is enough, Rosalind? I'm disappointed.
I pushed myself off the bed on my elbow, sitting up slightly. I want an equal partner, Zav. I jerked my head. If I lose clothing, you lose clothing.
And what piece of clothing do you suggest I lose in exchange for removing this sari?
I want to see your chest. I had a preview last night, but this tea of yours? It's practically wax paper on a chewy candy, Zav. Unwrap it. I want to feel your skin against mine.
Yes, boss.
Just as he reached the bottom of his tea, I placed my other foot on his chest, stopping him. And the pants. He shrugged as I lowered my feet back to the bed.
They'll have to come off eventually, so why not?
The moment I saw Xavier's chest in the full light of day, I knew why Noah Webster had so enjoyed putting together the dictionary. There was immense joy in seeing something so well-defined. Sitting up, I unbuttoned the richly embroidered and beaded form-fitting top. Xavier followed my fingers as they looped each catch and released, each exposing a little more. He reached down and undid the fly of his jeans just as I undid my last button. When his jeans fell to the floor and he'd managed to step out of them, I thought about telling him to ditch the underwear too. His briefs weren't leaving much to the imagination. I never got to make the suggestion. As soon as he was down to his skivvies, he went about ridding me of the sari. When he drew back the final fold, Xavier cocked his head at what he found underneath.
Boy shorts?
Feeling suddenly self-conscious, I sat up. Skirts aren't very comfortable without something more substantial underneath.
I think I need to make a confession.
I smiled. I'm not a priest, but I'll do my best. His head jerked before he resumed tentatively.
I diagnosed you as the frilly and lacy type.
Do you always predict your clients' underthings as part of your assessment? His half-cocked grin brought some of the playfulness back.
Not my clients, only my romantic interests.
I stood, drawing his curiosity. I turned away from him and lowered my boy shorts, giving him a perfect view of my bare backside. Over my shoulder, I saw his eyes fixed like a cat on a laser beam. He took only a moment to look at me exposed when I turned back around. But that look, it held everything. Reverence, lust, wonder, hunger, awe, tenderness. But most importantly, desire. A perusal of my figure from toe to tip ended with his eyes fixed on mine.
Bed?
I sashayed my way back. No, please?
Oh, there will be pleasing.
As I sat back, scooting myself back up the mattress, Xavier became a cloud above me, hovering over my body. I felt warmed in his shadow, protected, until he kissed me again, urging me to lay flat, then slowly moving his mouth down my chin over my collarbone, then continued a southerly path until I felt his lips where I'd wanted them most. How could this man make me come apart so easily? It didn't take but a few hot and heavy minutes for the whole process to play out again. Between his mouth, his tongue, the scratch of a nascent 5 o'clock shadow teasing my thighs, the world around me shattered. His eyes skirted up over my quivering frame. I reached for his face. Wow. Xavier crawled up my body, meeting me again with a kiss. I knew I still had one more to come, but something about this was feeling too lopsided. Pushing my fingers into his chest, I coaxed him off of me and guided him to lay down on his back.
Rosalind, what are you doing? This isn't about me.
Yes, it is. His briefs had done their duty for the day. It was time for them to retire. Xavier, though still he with the arching eyebrows, didn't protest when I took the initiative and stripped them off. He was beautiful. Well, as beautiful as a male member could be. Really, they were sort of funny-looking, loppy things, weren't they? But after a moment of inspection, I found my mouth going slack-jawed for an entirely unexpected reason. He jerked his body halfway up, looking to see what obvious bloodshed or calamity had caused such a reaction.
What?
It's you're not... I swallowed. It's just the first time I've ever seen one. You know. He grinned.
Are you saying this is the first time you've been with an uncircumcised man?
Shyly, I nodded. My innocent gesture must have triggered his pity. He doted on me, sitting up and taking my hand in his.
Look, Rosalind.
This time he pulled my body onto his lap.
We'll have our whole lives to explore each other. Don't feel like we have to do everything right now.
I want to, but it's... Look, Xav, I'm not some blushing virgin who needs to be slowly introduced to the ways of love. But seeing that, not knowing that about you, it reminded me of how sudden this is. How I woke up thinking I was proposing to Kane today. And instead, I'm admitting that I love you. His eyes went wide.
Are you?
Proposing to Kane? No way, not after what he said to me. He pushed an errant strand of hair behind my ear.
That's not what I meant. I meant, are you admitting that you love me?
God help me, I did. I truly did. Meekly, I nodded.
Good. Now that it's settled that we're in love, let me state again. If you want to wait, if my condition makes you uncomfortable.
Without another word, I planted my hands on his shoulders and pushed him to the bed. I thought you were the great profiler, Xav. Haven't you learned that I'm not the type of woman to deny myself something I want just because it's new and a little unknown? I love you, Xavier Holmes, and I want you. I called out his name in a deep guttural scream as he delivered the promised third. I couldn't believe how fast he flipped me over, or how demanding his efforts became. Within moments, I was on the precipice of a fourth fall when his teeth clenched.
I love you. I love you. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Xavier gave me one more kiss before falling to the mattress beside me. His arms embraced me, pulling my back against his chest as he suckled my neck just below my ear. Slowly, we came back down to earth, in body, if not yet in spirit. As his breath slowed and equalized, I thought that Xavier may have fallen asleep. I couldn't blame him. The Sandman had sent me several PMs as well. My body was spent. Heck, my body was overdrawn. So it surprised me when he spoke.
Maybe we should get back to the party.
There's 2 more days of the wedding left. Plenty of time to live up to my best friend obligations, I offered. Kamakshi will call me tonight, even if she has to make all India wait. She knew I was proposing to Kane. She'll want to hear how it turned out. Oh my God, Kane. Xavier shot up wide-eyed.
Is he here?
I perched myself on the edge of the bed and immediately began searching out my clothes. No, but he's probably already at the airport. He must have gotten his bags from here when you were in the bathroom. I don't see his things, do you? Xavier's confused expression as I shimmied my panties back on forced me to continue. He pretty much pieced together why I didn't end up agreeing to marry him.
Meaning he proposed to you, and not the other way around?
I nodded.
Darn it. That means I can't bill you for the commission. How will I put the down payment on the boat now?
Xav, be serious. We've got to get on top of this. He rose to his feet and stopped my fidgeting with the tiny buttons of my top.
I am serious. It's a beauty, Rosalind. A smaller yacht, but still large enough for me to justify an ascot.
Xav. He stopped my whining, this time by leaning in to kiss me as his hand slipped beneath my unbuttoned top and caressed my breast through my bra. I wanted nothing more than to reverse the process of getting clothed and fall back on the bed, but there was damage control to perform. When Xavier pulled away, I experienced the most amazing set of conflicting results. My heart was pounding, but my mind was calmed.
What is it that you think he could do, Moncour?
Convince my backers that I'm nuts, I said. He's going to engineer a hostile takeover of Beta House. When I said no to his proposal, he admitted he'd been after my company as much as me.
Tabernac, Salopard.
Despite the gravity of the moment, I couldn't stop the giggle snort that erupted from me. The graceless mannerism triggered Xavier's movement. He pecked me on the lips, grinning.
That makes the 5th new sound I've discovered you can make today. Was it my cussing in Quebecois, or knowing you're about to lose your livelihood? I'm only capable of recreating one of those on a regular basis.
It's just... When Kane was telling me off after I turned him down and told me he was going to ruin me, he said he hoped you were worth it. The irony that your worth is now going to be measured by the devaluation of my company. I can appreciate a good quip, even if I'm the butt of the joke.
What exactly did he say to you?
After I finished over a recap of Kane's rant, Xavier rubbed his chin and furrowed his brow.
If that's really what he said, it points to him dealing from a place of weakness, not strength. He's either bluffing about being able to do what he threatened or uncertain that he can. I might have a solution.
Okay, what? He shook his head.
I can't tell you. Not until I talk to some people first. Not because I'm trying to keep anything from you, but because I owe them the confidence. I promise I won't act without your consent, but I need to do due diligence before I disclose anything.
Of course, Xav, I trust you.
Good. Now,
He pulled a tangle of fabric off the floor.
tell me how to wrap you back in this thing. I'm guessing by the square footage of it, it's a 2-person job. Chapter 33, Xavier. No sooner had I won the woman of my dreams than I was already being forced to fight for her. When I had decided to pursue Rosalind in earnest, I knew there would be complications, consequences, considerations. I had, however, expected them all to be on my side. I never stopped to wonder at the effect it would have on her. Now I labored not only to contain the fallout from falling for her from my life, I had to make sure it had minimum impact on hers. The moment we were dressed and had relocated to Rosalind's suite, she and I set up the command center for Operation Thwart Kane Kennedy. I stuffed my phone back in my pocket after 2 successive phone calls made from the ensuite, one to the front desk and the other to Jack Colburn. According to the hotel clerk, Kane checked out about a half hour after he stormed off from the tea place. You were right, he must have grabbed his bags and ran while I was in the shower. Rosalind acknowledged the piece of information with a bob of her head.
The airline's website says that their direct flight to San Francisco left about 30 minutes late, but as of 10 minutes ago, it's airborne.
Her fingers danced across the keys, entering the data on our shared Google Doc. I amended her comment using my own laptop. That means it will be at Wi-Fi elevation now. Do you think he'll email your funders or call them?
Definitely call. He'd never commit something this potentially scandalous and leave a traceable record that would reveal him for the ingrate that he is. No, this will be a whisper campaign against our reputations. He'll only discuss things in person or in unrecorded phone calls. Otherwise, my ability to sue him for libel would be too easy. He may be a jerk, but he isn't stupid.
I don't know about that. Having a chance at you and still messing it up sounds pretty foolish to me.
Now is not the time for flattery, Xav.
When Rosalind was on the job, she was on the job. I loved that about her. Loved how task-driven she was. Looking over her shoulder, I saw that she had pulled up a schedule.
The flight is 17 hours. Fortunately, he's rich, but not rich enough to book his company's jet on a moment's notice. So that will give us some extra time. He won't discuss anything where someone might hear him, so factor in another hour for him to get through immigration and wait for his bag. The second he's alone in a limo, it's too late.
So we have 18 hours? She nodded. And here I thought this was going to be a challenge. What time does the second day of Kamakshi and Prashant's festivities start?
What? Oh, about noon. Why?
I don't want you to miss out on your friend's wedding, but we'll need time enough to get married. She coughed out her surprise and somehow managed to keep her eyeballs from springing out of their sockets.
What?
She said, as soon as she could manage speech. We're getting married, I repeated. In the morning, first thing. Rosalind examined me for signs of a second head.
What happened to courting me properly? Or was that just a ploy to get me into bed?
Turning from my laptop, I pulled her from hers and pushed her against a wall. My kiss claimed her with all the fervor of a conqueror. When I pulled away, she was breathless, blushing, and ready to go again. One, we both know you've been fantasizing about me for weeks. Maybe from the day we met. She sighed, turning her head to the side as I kissed my way down her neck.
Is there a 2 you'd like to cite?
My mouth made its way back to hers, sampling her soft lips with reverence. You're not a game I had to outsmart. I'm never going to ploy with you. I fully intend to court you, but it's not a point A to point B process. It's a lifetime commitment. Even though I would have preferred time to do it properly, I'll be working at it long after we're married.
Then why are we suddenly rushing to get hitched?
She teased. I released her and turned away. I couldn't bring myself to look at her when I took our very nascent relationship back a step. In case we need to birth something.
Right. I'm not sure what you're getting at, Xav, but like I told you, I'm on the pill. It's unlikely our tryst is going to result in any miniatures of us. Also, you should know I don't intend to have children. I hope that's not going to be an issue.
Not in the least. Though, and don't jump to conclusions, just trying to be upfront. If you ever feel the need to revisit that topic, don't hesitate. But I'm not worried about pregnancy. Think about it. What is Kane's leverage over us right now?
Money and connections.
She said.
And our reputations. We can lose businesses, but if we lose our reps, then we really are ruined.
Exactly. The Silicon Valley Holy Trinity. Capital, connections, and clout. That's why I just got off the phone with Jack Colbon. Her eyebrow raised at the apparent non sequitur.
Okay.
He's drawing up the necessary papers. Carmen's helping.
Still have no idea what you're talking about.
Instead of answer her, I opened up our Google Doc and typed the next bullet point of the plan into it. When I was finished, I turned my screen around and showed it to her. At first, Rosalind's eyes smiled, thinking it was a joke. Then, when I failed to spring a gotcha, her features grew solemn.
You can't be serious. That's never going to work.
Why wouldn't it?
Because it's bizarre.
She tried to argue. When I said nothing, she continued.
I have investors that have approval clauses for something like that. There's no way I could get them to okay something like that in the next 18 hours.
Never let it be said, Rosalind, that Mr. Betters isn't flexible, I said as I reached around her and edited the doc on her screen. After my markups, Rosalind chewed over the prospects in silence before saying,
Are you sure about this, Xav? I mean, this morning I was supposed to be marrying another man, and you were dancing in a Bollywood-styled wedding reception. Are you sure you're ready to make this kind of commitment this quickly?
I pulled Rosalind up from her chair and kissed her, lingering on her taste, letting my affections tell her heart not to worry about what her mind doubted. Absolutely, I said. I'm just formalizing what I knew I wanted to do since almost the first time I saw you.
Yeah, what's that?
One more kiss and I laid it bare. Do my job well, only... A line appeared between her eyes as her forehead creased.
Only what?
This is one massive wedding present. Don't expect something this big for our anniversaries. Rosalind's hand rose to stroke my cheek.
As long as I have you, I have exactly what I was after.
Epilogue. If the plane had suddenly run out of fuel, Kane Kennedy could easily provide enough bitterness and rage to fly it all the way to the moon, much less to San Francisco. The only salve to his anger and frustration at having been turned down by Rosalind was knowing that soon he'd run her company. Then, within a few weeks, with some strategic dealings and financial maneuvering, he'd find a way to destroy Ohms's petty HR firm too. Everyone thought staying private protected you from takeovers. Not true. Anyone who held debt created a way in for someone with the right motivations and deep enough pockets, and everyone in the valley owed somebody something. For real. Once he had Beta House in his portfolio of holdings, he could leverage its equity and knock down Holmes' HR with a quick 1-2 punch. It was almost too easy. His baggage seemed to take forever, but luckily, a limo was waiting the moment he stepped out of the international terminal at SFO. The second he found himself sequestered in the back seat, he took out his phone and called one of his business partners.
So, I guess Rosalind Betters didn't agree to sell you her company?
Geraldo said, all while drumming a keyboard in the background. Her loss. Of course, Kane hadn't told his partners about the marriage part of his plot. Holmes's NDA could have bitten him on the rear if he had, but telling his firm he was working on Rosalind to try to get her to sell off her company cheap, they had been all too willing to give him a sizable courting budget. Private limo and fancy dinners? No problem. Use the company jet to accompany her to a wedding in India? If it got her in the mood to bargain, sure. But wed her and get himself a trophy? That part had been merely personal. I will just have to get it the hard way. Do you have those numbers ready I asked for in the email? I got to move on this right away.
Sure do. I was just finishing the calculations when you called. Hold on in there. Yes, okay, the projected debt buyout of Beta Homes is...
Not Beta Homes. Kane ran a hand over his oily face and growled. If he had been able to take the private jet back, he could have readied all this information himself. Instead, he'd spent the flight writing vague emails to a series of venture capitalists, trying to get them to come on board with the plan without actually saying what the plan was. Beta House. Rosalind Betters' company is called Beta House. A few fervent clicks and Geraldo said,
Not anymore.
What do you mean not anymore?
You didn't hear? Oh, it must have happened while you were in the air. Yeah, there was a press release earlier today announcing the change. I'm not surprised. Rumors were that hot CEO at Beta House had been seen all over town with Xavier Holmes. Turns out they got married yesterday. Or was it today? Or tomorrow? That time change thing always confuses me.
What are you talking about, Geraldo? She didn't marry, but she could have, couldn't she? Fine. What did he care? Sure, she'd have made a nice bit of arm candy, even been enjoyable to spend time with, both in and out of bed. But it didn't change anything. The plan remained the same. I don't give a hoot who she beds. What's the number? How much is it going to take for us to buy up her debt and force her equity? When his partner read out the number, Kane was certain he'd heard it wrong. But after he asked Geraldo to repeat it, the information came out the same. How did that projection go up almost 60% overnight?
Well, that's what I was trying to tell you, Kane. It's got a whole bunch of press today. The news agencies, heck, people on Twitter are going gaga over their love story. For a wedding present, Xavier Holmes sold her a 99% stake in his company for $1. It's basically doubled her worth overnight.
Anger purged his good sense, and Kane threw the phone across the cabin of the limo. Finally, he understood the true definition of getting caned.
The end. Thanks for listening to Have Gown Will Wed, written by Killian McRae. This episode concludes this digital narration audiobook. If you would like to explore live read adaptions of this or other titles written by Killian McRae or her alter ego, Kendre Meeks, visit Tulip Noir Books at tulipnoirbooks.com. That's TULIPENOIRE books.com. You can also show your appreciation to the author by using the thanks feature in the menu below. Killian appreciates your support and welcomes your feedback in the comments section below. The text and audio copyright for this production are held by Killian McRae, the sole owner of the content therein. Digital voice narration provided by 11 Labs. The music you're hearing is Happy Alley, written by Kevin MacLeod and made available via incompetech.com. It's licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. http creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0.